Good evening. My name is Mahmoud Faisal Khatib, and I'm an attorney. I'm also with the Better Informed Housing Corporation. We are a not-for-profit that is talking about housing to provide education and support and assistance for communities about real estate. We are located at, we're going to get a better mouse here, at 218 North Jefferson, Suite 103, Chicago, Illinois. Phone number is 312-533-2688, or you can email us at neighbors@betterinformed.org. So, thank you for joining us. We're going to talk today about something called wholesaling. That's an exciting thing that's been happening lately. That's a law that was just passed. Our governor, J.B. Pritzker, signed into law changes to the Real Estate Act, and there was a variety and series of changes that applied to education, that applied to brokers and what their definitions are. But the one that we're going to talk about today is the one that impacted a lot of people who are not real estate sales professionals or real estate professionals, and that is wholesaling. So a little bit about wholesaling. Wholesaling is essentially when a individual finds a seller who wants to sell their property. They then sign a contract with him. Let's say, for example, they want to buy the property for $100,000. So the seller signs a contract, says, okay, I agree to sell you the property for $100,000. Then they turn, and that buyer goes and finds another buyer who then sells it or agrees to buy it, the property, for $120,000. So then that in-between buyer will assign their contract. This is one way of doing it. Well, they'll assign the contract to the new buyer, and then they'll make the split between the 100 and the 120, and they'll make themselves a $20,000 fee. Many real estate brokers did not like this and objected to this because essentially it was non-licensed sales professionals working their ways around the system and finding ways to make money on selling real estate. Because the idea was, if they are a buyer on a property, what they end up with is an equitable title. So if I have a contract to buy a property, I have equitable title. If I have equitable title and I turn around and sell my equitable title to a second buyer, I am really not in the practice of selling real estate. What I'm doing is I'm actually selling my real estate as an equitable owner versus an actual title holder. An actual title holder is someone who has title or has their name on the deed, for example, versus an equitable title, which means I have a right to title, which is what a sales contract gives you. So this was called wholesaling. So in wholesaling, many people made a lot of money providing this assignment or this in-between process from the seller to an ultimate secondary or even tertiary buyer. So with this new law that goes into effect in January 2020, that idea of wholesaling has been eliminated. Now, the interesting way they did it was they didn't come right out and say wholesaling is bad, we can't do it anymore. What they did was they expanded the definition of what a licensed real estate broker is under subsection 5 within the Act, and that specifically says buys, sells, offers to buy or sell, or otherwise deals in options on real estate or improvements thereon. So we'll show you, I think we have the overhead here. That is the provision that got changed. So based on that change, it includes and expands to include wholesalers. So essentially what's happening when you're wholesaling, you have an option to acquire the property. By no longer having that option, or by being a broker defined as someone who transfers or transacts in options or sells options for real estate, what that happens is that creates the issue of wholesaling and puts wholesaling directly underneath the power of the broker. So brokers love this because now wholesaling and people can't do a runaround to go around real estate brokers in order to sell property. Now the benefit to this to sellers is that now they'll get higher prices. Technically, the difference between what they want to sell it at and what this wholesaler was able to sell it for should become the benefit of the seller. Or in exchange, the actual buyer gets the benefit of buying at the lower price versus paying the extra middleman fee. So now this creates a problem for wholesalers. People who are not licensed were trying to transact and be involved in connecting two parties to real estate. which is technically what wholesaling was. Wholesaling was I go find a buyer and I go find a seller and I bring them together. Or in the right order actually is buying the seller and then finding the buyer and then making a fee in between. That's exactly what a real estate broker does, which is why the real estate or the realtors or the real estate the associations were fighting hard to have this changed to block out wholesalers. Now, as an attorney, I've done several deals with wholesalers, and I found it goes both way. It's great if you represent the wholesaler or if you're part of that transaction, the wholesalers bring you the deals. However, from the buy and the sell side, you essentially cut out the real estate broker. In some cases, you have a real estate broker where they're also getting a commission from one side or the other, or they're making a commission, and that's eating into the wholesaler fee. However, the broker's looking at that and saying, well, that could have been their fee. So it's not unusual and unexpected that the realtors find a way to block out wholesalers and say, now this is our territory. Because that's exactly what wholesalers were doing. Wholesalers were infringing on the broker's territory and cutting brokers out of the deals. So wholesalers, if you want that to stay the way it was, you should have gotten a much more powerful lobby to go and lobby the governor and the state representatives in order to represent you. However, it's unlikely you're going to have as powerful lobby as the realtors. So in this case now, brokers have now become wholesalers. Wholesalers no longer exist unless you are licensed. So that opens up the question as to what do all these wholesalers do? All these wholesalers need to find a way to still make money. They can't do it by assignment of contract like they did before. And they can't do it by adding in between or being the in-betweens on the seller and the buyer. So what do you do? Well, that's really a business question. It's a good thing that I have both business acumen and legal acumen to help you out with that. So here are some recommendations. One, the easiest one is get your real estate license. So go get licensed as a real estate broker. Now, some of you may not want to or may not be able to for a variety of reasons. If that's the case, a good way is to partner with a broker. Now, if you're going to partner with a broker, the brokers are very conscious of this and they have to be an issue. Because as a broker, they cannot split and share fees with non-brokers. They can share fees with their clients, but they can't share and split fees with non-brokers. So, for example, if they've got a $30,000 commission on a transaction, they cannot take that 30 and split it with a non-licensed professional. Okay? So your wholesalers, you're kind of out of luck in terms of partnering with a broker in that fashion of asking for a split fee. The alternative option is for the broker to pay a marketing fee. So for example, if you assist them and support them in the marketing of the property and the selling of the property, if you act as their assistant. Now in some cases it requires licensure as an assistant or as a personal as assistant of support in terms of the Real Estate Broker Act. There are possible ways where you could get a marketing fee, right, from the broker for the work that you do on the file. If you do that, well, it's kind of dangerous for the broker because they could lose their license for it or they could be fined, as well as you could be suffering and you could be faced with $25,000 in civil penalties, as well as to be criminally prosecuted for acting or performing acts under the Licensure Act without being a licensed real estate professional. So, really be careful as to what exactly that you're doing under the marketing assistance that you're providing. So if you're actually doing hard labor, hard work, for example, putting out the signs, if you're showing people, if you're walking people through it, if you're whatever you're providing, be very specific. Now, the other piece of that is you have to be conscious of falling within the Real Estate Act, because within the Real Estate Act, it also talks about so here, I'll actually show it to you and I'll run it through. So why don't you take a look. Trying to get to the overhead. How do we get to the overhead? Overhead's not working. Web PC. Zoom. Web PC. It's not working. Well, I can't show it to you, but I can read it to you. So here's what we're talking about. The first one is you're selling, exchange, purchase, rent, or lease real estate. Obvious. That's the first one. That's what brokers generally do as real estate sales professionals. Then you're offered to sell, exchange, purchase, rent, or lease real estate. Also a secondary thing. Maybe the overhead will work again. I'm going to try this. I'm told, nope, the overhead is not working. So overhead has been blocked. We're having technical difficulty on that. But If you want to call it, well, we used to have also a phone number there, but I don't have the phone number on the screen anymore. Oh, no, that's the web PC. We're Better Informed Housing Corp. We are having some technical difficulty. Oh, there we go, overhead. Okay, so on the overhead, so if we look, number 3, negotiates, offers, attempts, or agrees to negotiate the sale, exchange, purchase, rental, or leasing of real estate, right? Number 4, lists, offers, attempts, or agrees to list real estate for sale, lease, or exchange, all within the broker definitions that we're familiar with. 5, expanded it in terms of talking about the options to purchase real estate, aka assignments. Supervises the collection, offer, attempt, or agreement to collect rent for the use of real estate. Advertises or represents himself or herself as being engaged in the business of buying or selling real estate. Assists, number 8, if you notice here. Assists, directs in procuring real estate. Coming back up to here. Or referring leads or prospects intended to result in the sale or exchange, lease, or rental of real estate. That is an issue. So that's exactly what you'd be doing if you're supporting. So you got to be very careful about that. So like these lead referral agents have to be licensed now. Something to be conscious of. Assists or directs in the negotiation of any transaction intended to result in the sale, exchange, lease, or rental of real estate. So this, if you're not a broker, you could have problems. So assisting is part of the problem. Opens real estate to the public for marketing purposes. So if you're a personal assistant, you cannot go open the real estate, like an open house or do a showing. You actually have to be a broker to do that or be licensed to do that. Okay? So these are the issues that we're talking about and that you have to be conscious of wanting to be involved in the real estate piece. So then, how do I get to you, Cam? There we go. Hello, all. So, essentially, to getting back to the thing, how do you wholesale real estate? It's almost impossible now to wholesale real estate without being licensed. Marketing fee is a very tenuous and dangerous way of doing it, and I would not recommend doing it unless you truly have defined roles as to what you're doing for that process. Okay? Now, there are some ways of saying, well, I am a client and I'm wanting to buy the property, and so now I'm buying the property and now I'm selling it, but that's another way of doing the wholesaling piece. So here's a thought. I go, presuming I'm not a lawyer, I'm just some random guy in the street who finds a piece of property and wants to buy it. So I go and put a contract down to buy the property. I hire a broker to assist me with that. The broker says, great. Broker gets me a contract. They give me time, 30, 60, 90 days to close. I then turn around with the broker and go and find a buyer to buy the property for more than my contract price. So my contract price is $100,000. I turn around and I go sell the property for $130,000 without actually taking title of the property. So I still have equitable title. I turn around with the broker. The broker finds me the buyer and sells the property for me, and now the broker is in the entire process of arranging that assignment. I'm still in the middle, but now I have a broker representing me on both the buy and the sell. At that point, you can have a negotiation or discussion with your broker that they don't get as much of the pie on the sell as they did on the buy. Now, is that going to work? Possibly. Potentially. But we're going to have to drill deeper into the law and the act to find out more to see if that becomes an issue. Right now, that has not been addressed. It appears that so long as you share your fee, your wholesaling fee, or really more likely, as long as the wholesaling fee is being paid to a broker and you're making the profit on the difference, that might actually possibly, potentially, maybe work. So one way of doing it is to actually throwing it by the IDFPR and seeing what their thoughts on that is. So the question is, did the broker really work their way into taking some of the assignment fees, or did they really cut out the wholesaler out completely? That's left to be seen. Now, if you have any questions, you can feel free to call us directly. And apparently, I don't have the phone number on the screen, but I used to have the phone number on the screen. I don't think we can do phone. I'm getting a head shake from the station chief here. I got a head shake. So we can't call. But you can call me on my cell phone, which I probably won't answer because I'm sitting here talking to you all. Now, really quick, I'll take you back to our Contact Us page, which is, there we go. So again, we are Better Informed Housing Corp. We are structured in terms of, here's what we do. We provide, our mission is to educate and inform the public and the community as to what your real estate powers and real estate needs are, and what items that you have in terms of protecting yourself to making sure you're taken care of, making sure that you're not taken advantage of. We are located at 218 North Jefferson, Suite 103, Chicago, Illinois, 60661. The phone number is 312-533-2688. Or you can email us at neighbors@betterinformed.org. Now we're back. So that's wholesaling. Now the question becomes, what options do you have other than wholesaling? Well, as a real estate sales professional, you have all the powers and the privileges of being a real estate licensed professional. So you can go out there and you can actually list real estate, sell real estate, buy real estate. The other option is you can actually buy the real estate yourself. Now, I understand the problems there, and that comes with a cash flow issue. So if you don't have the $100,000 to buy the property, you really only had enough to handle and make profit on the float. And that was what wholesalers were doing to make money on that, which was a great idea, and it worked for many, many, many years. I've got many clients who have done this, and they themselves moved on to actually buy and acquiring real estate on their own. The biggest question that wholesalers need to ask themselves if they were wholesaling before. Now, you have a few more months of this, because this really doesn't go into effect until January of 2020. And in January of 2020, that's when things change. That's when the new definition of broker comes in, and no longer are you allowed to be a wholesaler. So the question for the wholesaler is, what do you want to do? Why are you doing this, and how can you make money in real estate? Eventually, you need to get to a point of acquiring real estate. Now, to get to acquire real estate, that's a privilege that I could say that, oh, hey, just go buy real estate. What's the big deal? Or use other people's money to buy real estate. But if you don't have a down payment, you don't have the credit scores, you don't have the wherewithal to do that. And in some cases, let's be honest, because of the Real Estate Act and the licensing requirements, there are some people who might have criminal records or criminal backgrounds and can't be real estate sales professionals. So that becomes an issue. So really the best thing to do is to partner with someone or find a broker that you can partner with that you can trust. Because in the end, if you can't trust them, then what's the point? So finding a broker you trust, or someone that you do trust who could get licensed, and helping them to get licensed and training so that way they can help you and they can become your partners. So those are the options and those are the ideas. I have more, maybe more. You can check us out and maybe go to our website and check it out, or you can call us at 312-533-2688. I do want to tell you we have an event tomorrow night. So tomorrow at 11:11, we've got an event that's being held. Now 11:11 is on Lake Street. I should have the exact address. I can actually find it really quick. So 11:11 is the address. I think it's 1111 Lake Street. Restaurant. How do you like this? Live audience, I actually seen her talking about it, and we're going to go straight to it. So 11:11 is, here we go. Amazing food, by the way. Their chef is fantastic. Oh, I can't be doing that. But what I can talk about is it's going to be there tomorrow. So the event tomorrow is at 11:11. And 11:11 is a restaurant which is going to be holding an event for real estate sales professionals. It's a $10 entry fee, buying tickets. You go to Eventbrite and you can find it. And it's for the nonprofit teaching about real estate and wholesalers and how to figure out how to get around this process. It's an educational event. If you mention this show, you might get a discount. But again, it's tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. The address is 1111 West Lake Street. The restaurant's called 1111. That's where we're holding the event in order to come to talk about wholesaling. And I will be there specifically, as well as many other members of my team, and other brokers will be there to talk about what it means and how this wholesaling has impacted you. Again, the event is tomorrow night, Tuesday night, August, that's funny, I should remember what date it is, August 20th, for the event at 1111 at 7 p.m., and there will be brokers there. There will be brokers from various organizations. So I don't remember which organizations will be there, but we'll have a bunch of different brokers there. And myself and my team, there will be other lawyers that will be there as well. You can actually ask questions. Better Informed Housing Corporation will be there and is co-sponsoring the event. And our idea is to actually help people understand how to go from where there was no law stopping you from being a wholesaler to where there's now a law as of January 1st that says you can no longer be a wholesaler. Now, I don't have a phone number for you to call, so I can't think of any questions that you might have regarding wholesaling, but I believe we've covered most of it. The other piece is you want to be, so things to be, some ideas that I'm having about this wholesaling, I think you want to be conscious of, or conscientious of. I think I used the word properly. Either way, in order to look at what you're looking at regarding wholesaling is when you're dealing with a broker. So the broker usually gets a commission, as you know. They'll get that 2.5% on the front end and at 2% when they sell. Usually it's a listing agreement, which is about 5%. Anywhere, it could be anything from 3% all the way up to 8 or 10 or 12%. I've seen higher numbers. But usually there's a percentage of the sale that the broker will get. And they'll pay that, split it with them as the listing agent and with a buyer's agent. In this case, since you're buying and the seller never intended to sell to begin with, they would have to sign a listing agreement with the broker in order to sell their property, and you would be the buyer. So technically, the sales professional would have the buyer buy and sell agreement on that. Now, what does that do? On a $100,000 property, let's say the commission is 5%. Okay? So at 5% commission, they're really selling the property for 100, but the seller is netting less. The seller will be netting 95,000. Now, if you take in expenses and costs, they might even be netting less than that, down to maybe $90,000. So if you turn around and go to sell the contract with the same broker to find a buyer who will buy the property for 120, for example, now that 120, your agreement has to exist with the broker as to how much they're going to get paid for selling the contract. So here's the issue. Why was it so favorable for the wholesaler to assign the contract to the seller, to the buyer, to the secondary buyer? Again, let me restate the question. Why is it so favorable for the wholesaler to assign the contract from the seller to the new buyer and only get the money in the between? And the reason it made sense was no transfer stamps. So why is another reason why the state was so insistent upon making sure that they cut this assignment wholesaler out of the process. Because when the wholesaler assigned the contract, there was only one closing. So one set of transfer taxes, one set of commissions, one set of closing fees and costs, one title company, one lender's policy, one owner's policy, all one, and really the wholesaler got the benefit of the in-between. So that is still what's going to happen, but the assignment must happen under the power of the broker, where the broker is the one who's facilitating that transfer from seller to buyer. And the wholesaler can still make their fee because they really can't make their fee. Because if you're making a fee or a profit from that, you have to be a broker. So, again, you're back to the partnership with the broker. And the question is, if the broker is involved in facilitating that, can you still make a fee from one equitable title to the next? That's the problem. That's the question. And really, it's going to be very difficult to do so. And what I've seen from brokers, and with respect to all the real estate sales professionals, because they do feed us, they're very unlikely to get really, really risky when it comes to that, because it could cost them their license, and it could result in a severe fine and a penalty. And as a wholesaler, you could be subject to criminal prosecution for conducting yourself as a broker. So, that being said, we have less than a minute left. I'm going to go back to introduce, remember, tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. at 1111 on 1111 West Lake Street. We're having a special event located at 1111 West Lake Street. There's I guess I could click on the map. It's located right on Lake Street, in between, I think it's Morgan. But either way, you can reach us after this anytime at betterinformed.org. Our address is 218 North Jefferson, Suite 103. Our phone number is 312-533-2688. Or you can email us at neighbors@betterinformed.org. And this is Mahmoud Faisal Khatib from Better Informed Housing Corporation. As always, it was a pleasure, and thank you for your patience with all the technical difficulties. It's been fun. Have a good night.